Well, now here in studio, we are going to continue talking about our nation's capital. And that's because a Henry County farmer recently traveled there and got to testify before the Senate Agriculture Committee. Well, now Megan Dwyer joins us in studio, bringing her perspective from both the field and her time talking with the federal government about conservation practices. Thanks for being here early, Megan.
Thanks, Haley.
Yes. Well, first off, we're going to start with these conservation practices. What are some of those that are used around here?
Yeah, and so one of the big things to remember is that conservation is going to look different for every farm. They all have different resource concerns, different management needs, but some of the most common ones would be cover crops, where you grow something after that cash crop, after that corn and soybeans has been harvested, no-till, so you're not disturbing the soil, things like grass waterways to help where the water's moving through a field, edge of field buffers and borders and things like that.
Well, in your speech that you gave just a couple weeks ago, you have an analogy, which is a really delicious analogy. So tell me, what about this chocolate chip cookie and how does it relate to conservation practices?
So in my work at Illinois Corn, I would say one of the most challenging parts is helping relate and make these really complex issues on the farm something that the general public, these policymakers, regulators can understand. And so when we started talking about conservation, I took to a chocolate chip cookie analogy. So thinking that, again, conservation looks different for every farmer. Everyone's personal preference of the ideal chocolate chip cookie is going to look different as well. And so looking at, if I didn't give you a recipe, it'd be really hard to make that ideal chocolate chip cookie. Well, farmers don't really have a recipe. There's no clear-cut answer on how to be successful with conservation. And then taking it one step further to say, even if you did have the recipe and everyone had the same recipe, every oven bakes differently. And just like two farm fields, no results are going to be the same. And so thinking about what it takes for the flexibility, the innovation, and just the overall support a farmer needs to be successful.
Well, I know you talked about funding, and you also talked about flexibility of funding and how the two need to pair together. Why is that?
Yeah, so just as with that cookie analogy on things being different, farmers need to be able to innovate. They need to be able to use what makes sense for their farm, for what they have for equipment, what they have for time and labor, what their own concerns and priorities are. Not to mention, there's a lot of opportunities to partner with private groups. Illinois Corn partners proudly with PepsiCo as a great example. And so what their ultimate goals might be a little bit different than what NRCS wants to see. And so allowing that flexibility for everybody to have a successful outcome is really what we're after.
Well, this was a great opportunity. And in that opportunity, I mean, you're probably looking in the future. So are there other opportunities for farmers to participate in some newer conservation programs in the future?
Absolutely, and that would be our challenge, is for everybody to try and do something different. Now looking at how we see those programs happening, that I think is where there's maybe a lot of concern or apprehension going forward. We know we need technical assistance. We need people on the ground to help provide that resource and that knowledge. We also know there is a funding component. These practices and the equipment are very cost prohibitive in situations, and knowing that we're in a tough farm economy right now, we need to make sure there is a financial piece. But overall, looking at new programs that look at what a whole transition might encompass and having all of those resource concerns addressed.
Well, Megan, it's great to hear about this experience. Your daughter got to go. Tell me about bringing her to the Capitol. It looks like you guys were all having a blast.
It was great. So I've got 4 kids. I took my oldest in 4th grade, and then my daughter's been, begging all year to come, and this opportunity presented itself. I didn't realize it, but I really think it was some of my early trips to DC and some other experiences that really kind of planted that seed that later, brought out some of the best in me. And I'm hoping that someday she'll look back and see what an amazing experience this was. We definitely had to fit some fun things in for a 10-year-old, like seeing the pandas at the National Zoo, but really getting to engage with senators. The USDA chief economist got to talk with her. Just really, it was wonderful to see, it didn't matter both sides of the aisle, what we were talking about, for these people that are very busy to take the time to invest in the future generation.
Yeah, and what a great role model she has in you. I mean, to see your mom testify before the Senate Ag Committee, that's something I'm sure she'll never forget, and I bet you won't either.
Not for a long time.
Yes. Well, Megan, it was so great to have you this morning. We appreciate all your insight and look forward to seeing how some of those things turn out in the future.
Thanks, Haley.